Yo 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 yippee yay yippee yo yippee hi yippee yo yippee 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 yo yo yippee yo yippee yippee yo yo yippee yo yo hi ho hippie yippee yo yo yippee yippee yo tippy tippy toe tippy toe toe tippy 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 tippy. So what's up? Today has been a very pleasant day. I took a little nap earlier, did my raid stuff with my Final Fantasy group. Jackie and I finished watching The Incredibles, and then we decided to just roll right into The Incredibles 2. If you ever want to see the ceaseless march of technology, watch 2 back-to-back Pixar movies, like in the same series. The amount of difference between the first Incredibles and Incredibles 2 is like, it's pretty difficult to detect if you watch one and watch the other. They're both stylized, right? Like they got those cartoonish figures, they got caricatures of bodies and faces and etc., etc. Like, it's really crazy how stylized everything is about it. But there's still a lot of it that's like pretty fucking ugly in the first Incredibles that you don't notice until you're like deep into the sequel. I guess the best way to see it. Hey, hi Roddy. How are you? What are you up to? Ooh, shit. Nice. Oh, the hair's so itchy. I finished exercising not too long ago, and I'm also kind of still sweaty. But how are you doing? Your face is a pleasant day, too. Face is a pleasant face. You've been kicking it old school over there in the CA. But yeah, I don't know. There's nothing like watching two Pixar movies to see how much they develop. I know back in the day they used to always have like a technical goal to overcome. Monsters Inc. it was hair. Wall-E, it was particles. Finding Nemo, it was water. To like pretty accurately simulate the ocean. It was also hair. I could see that. I think it was body deformation in the first Incredibles. I think Elastigirl was a big problem for them, having transformation and stuff like that on moving things. They had to build a whole new architecture for rigging. Yeah, I remember Violet. Actually, all of their hair. If you look at the scene where they hit the water when the plane is taken out, it's pretty incredible. And I remember Jackie actually said something about it for the first Incredibles. But by the time The Incredibles 2 has come out, all of that stuff has pretty much been figured out. If I said that, I'm sorry. It's going to happen. But there's so much other stuff. Like lighting is more matured. It's kind of like, if you watch, especially really early in the morning, before you kind of get used to it, is the best time to see all these differences. When they're fighting the Underminer under the city of Municiburg or whatever, there are all these parts where there's like a bunch of tiny pebbles falling and blocking light, and it's like all this stuff moving realistically. And it's really amazing to see it happening with the light, like, kind of filtering in. But yeah, like, they built the system for Sully, I think, in Monsters Inc. that they kept working on for the first Incredibles. But people still look like weird fucking robot people in they look like weird, like, Uncanny Valley clay-faced freaks in the first one, and they don't look fully realistic in The Incredibles 2, but they look a lot more believable as humans. And it's only from watching them back to back that you see how distinct it is, how different it is. So it was really nice to go from one to the sequel and just get a full, real sense of. And I should have just waited until after the fight to lockpick if I didn't get a key here. Don't do it. And another thing is, when I saw The Incredibles 2 in the theater, I still really believe that the first Incredibles movie is a monument. It's like, it's such a concisely well-written, fully realized story that it's paced extremely perfectly. The style, the aesthetic, the... God damn it, dude, don't do that. Ugh. And I used my blank. Well, this is a shit start. But everything about the first Incredibles is so specifically thought out and perfect. And when I watched The Incredibles 2, I was kind of not let down, but like I kind of realized that my expectations were too high. But this time, I think I rewatched it again, but kind of in passing. This time, like, really focusing on it. It's actually an amazing movie. And I enjoy it more on this closer rewatch than I did. Okay, so there wasn't a key there, so that's okay. We're gonna make a lot of money. We have to be a little careful, though. But yeah, I wish I had been able to, well, this is because I would have had even more money opportunities right here. I can't walk into a pit or anything, or I'm just screwed. Oh, yeah, it's a better movie. The second movie has also incredible pacing. It's got a really, actually, maybe a better story than the first one if you're looking at it as a pure story. If you're looking at it as, like, there's some lines that are really kind of forced in, the, like, I'm not upset, I'm proud. Like, that line fell super flat, in my opinion, in The Incredibles 2, where those kind of bringing the family together moments were super genuine and really effective in the first one. Man, where the fuck could that secret be? Okay, it's right there. We're gonna buy this. It's actually fine. I think the story was actually really good. That's how I felt when I watched it the first time, Roddy. I felt like the story was just like kind of rote, but like on watching it a little bit more closely the second time, actually, or I guess a second time watching it focused. I thought it was actually incredibly well done. I'm gonna keep saying incredible. It's a regular word. But it's like some of the stuff that they did, the way they tied in like people's need to live vicariously through others, to have heroes do the work for them and stuff like that was actually a really good point, and it answered a bunch of the like unasked questions of the first one, like things about like how do people accept why is Syndrome the only one angry that they're superpower heroes? why is it okay that everyone can just kind of look at these incredibly overpowered beings and just be like, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Like, it was only Syndrome who questioned, like, metahumans, godlings among men. And it was really nice to have someone have a problem with that for a more personal reason. Like, I also really liked Evelyn. I thought that Bob Odenkirk's character, I think Winston was his name, Winston or Winston, was flatter. He was supposed to be the one, he was the butler. He was supposed to be the one that we thought had done it. But I liked the motivations for the character, the kind of, she never really was behind the scenes. She had her own things, but she was like, she was the self-made superhero of this one. She was the one who, through her inventions, overcame her lack of specialness. Like, yeah, Bob Odenkirk is an incredible actor. I thought his character could have been more than just, like, happy and supportive, but he needed to be the foil to his sister, who we were supposed to root for the whole time. The movie did a really great thing that I didn't notice, and it kind of, like, focused on strong women. And, you know, a lot of people at the time of the movie, well, I mean, I did notice that it focused on strong women, but it used that against us in a way in the sequel. Like, so the whole, like, women are strong, women are empowered was it felt like, you know, of course we're gonna have Evelyn be this powerful woman who overcomes her brother, who's this just, like, smooth talker businessman. She's actually out there doing stuff. She's gonna be the better of the two. She's a little quirky. She's got, like, real personality, whereas this other guy is just a suit. And our expectation for that, I think, is why it worked so well, that the roles of who was good and who was bad was flipped. And, like, I think that that's something that I haven't heard anybody else really point out, and I didn't really notice until this watching of the movie. Like, I don't know, like, I thought that was really cool. And the fact that, I don't know, that the screenslaver, like, the movie is making fun of its audience with the screensaver talking about how people just want to watch heroes. They just want to sit at home and do nothing while someone takes action. And, you know, this is Brad Bird making fun of, like, the growing rise of superhero movies. His own his own Fantastic Four family movie, like, he's pointing the camera at the audience and saying, like, look, you guys are doing exactly this. You're just passively, you're not out there making something. You're just watching other people have these adventures. And, you know, he's also making a buck off of it. But it's like, I don't know, I always thought that was kind of funny that he was willing to joke at the expense. Is make a character who, of course, is kind of like vacuous, villainous character with the kind of like anti-sheeple mentality, which is easy to poke fun at. But it's just, it's a really, really good movie and worth a closer second watch. It's pretty easy to pass sequels up as less impressive than the original, mostly because the original is a fresh IP most of the time without anything to back it up. Everything had to be created out of thin air. And I don't know, I just think it exceeded my expectations on a rewatch, which it's always pleasant to have. But yeah, the graphical change, the quality of the animation, the quality of the character design. Like, there's a shot in the end of the movie where it shows all the family members in the street with, like, civilians and stuff around while they're arresting Evelyn. And it's got... It should, like, you can see a musculature under the costumes of the characters, and not just the male characters. You can see, like, whereas, you know, everyone was kind of flat, soft, and round in the first one with hard lines if they had muscles, there's actually, like, I don't know, like a skeleton almost to the other characters. Like, you can see the way that structure, like, people's bodies hang and bend, and the way that muscles interact with skin, and that skin interacts with the costume, and it's like, it's really, really fucking impressive, especially after having just watched the first one where everyone looked like, you know, a doll with a, like a wax figure over a wire skeleton with really, really horrifying bland faces, especially, like, the more secondary characters. They, of course, put a little bit more work into realizing the primary characters, the pars themselves. But the secondary characters just looked like their hair is just, like, kind of sitting in weird clumps on top of their head. Their faces are stiff and robotic. They look like animatronics more than people, and they really changed that for just about everyone in the sequel. Oh, I bent my neck. God damn. This guy takes so much damage. Once I get, like, a single decent gun, I'm gonna stop gun forcing. That's not it, Chief. Chief! I don't believe that's it, Chief. Still not exactly a Chief. Chief, 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 Chief. Chief, Chief, Chief. Wow. That ain't hit, Chief. The ability to steal this this early is fucking great. +1 bullets, also fucking great. Don't need to steal yet, though. Not quite. This is like a heal. I always think it's coolness, but to taint coolness. We'll just take that. We'll get this. We'll have 2 more armor by the time we're in the next floor. And we'll go. And we'll go. Oh, man, wow. Like, this is actually a pretty strong gun if you're willing to put up with how bad it is, especially for room clearing. Like, just hit a guy, please. Ooh, shit. Alright, the ability to hold yet another item. What? I should have stolen. Oh well. We'll maybe steal the rat, depending on how I feel about the rat fight. I feel like I need to get closer with it. Oh, nice. Are you ever going to stream Stardew Valley, or do you play it on the Switch? I like seeing the beginning of Stardew Valley when people are like really trying to figure out how they're going to organize things. Like late game Stardew Valley is cool. Okay, so right back to this one. But it's usually like it's more like watching machines run than people decide much. Especially people who really know what they're doing. Wow, what a shitty couple of fucking rewards there. What a shitty room. Huh. Oh right, I have a damage upgrade from Unity. I remember Nate was streaming it for a while, and I'd watch him play, and it's just like, he'd wake up, grab a bunch of stuff, and not really have to think about planting or anything, because by that point his farm was so self-possessed. Like, he just was kind of, he was like the foreman. He just went in to make sure everything else was running properly, but he wasn't doing anything himself, so it kind of, I mean, I know that's the point. You don't want to be a farmhand for all eternity in a game like that, but as a viewer, it's kind of like, I don't know. If you don't grow up with the farm, it doesn't feel like it's as much yours. Man, I could stand for some accuracy on this run. Oh shit! Damn it! Bye. Bye. I kind of want to like get back in this Smash Brothers. I feel like I zipped out of that a little bit too quickly. Like, I had my fun. I didn't play a lot of the new characters or anything, and I also kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like didn't do the single player stuff, just did a lot of practice matches. And I know that the single player is like not a lot of people's favorite, like World of Light or whatever, but I didn't play it at all, and I feel like it in Smash. Moses was telling me he's been playing a bit more Smash, and I would like to play against him, but we only really hang out on Pandemic Day. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and open all of these. Look at this here. And there's a very, very good chance we're going to be rat. Yeah, I don't know. No one seemed to like it too much, but I still want to try stuff. I don't want to not try stuff because other people said they didn't like it. Like, that's not fair to the game or anything. I was talking to Nate about it today at Sushi. I've been really hesitant to buy games, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to still be pretty hesitant to buy, like, games from companies that have practices I don't support. I'm not buying anything Bethesda. I'm not supporting the Epic Games Store. Any company that really, like, has lost me on practices or anything like that is still out of the picture. But I am totally oh my god. I'm totally going to start buying indie games like crazy. I bought Sayonara Wild Hearts, and I'm going to play that a little bit after this one. I mean, as a developer, I think that... Hey, cool. I think that I'm okay with what id Softworks is doing. But yeah, Bethesda as a developer, I'm just out of it. I'm going to buy and play through Doom Eternal. I'm really happy that I got my money back for Rage 2? Rage 2? Yeah. Because that game sucked. Oh no, that wasn't id though, that was somebody else. Yeah, dude, like, for such a game that, like, it, like, oozed style, and then it played like just a boring pile of crap. It just was not enjoyable to play. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Oh, whatever. If after, like, 20 minutes of playing a game, I haven't had one moment of enjoyment, I'm out. Like, if there isn't something that makes me go like, okay, then I'm just gonna be done with it. Like, but I am going to start buying indie games, even games that I'm not necessarily going to play, because I don't know, because I feel like I'm on a big kick of, like, supporting the things that I believe in, and I really want that to be a bigger part of my personality. I support the things that I believe in, and I don't support the things that I don't. And I want that to start being, like, more of a defining... Rocksteady? Oh, the Arkham games? I don't know. Gonna be doing anything they want. Bug boots is a yes. So we're gonna steal it and get our second bit of curse. Do I have any kind of water weapon? I don't. It's not worth buying one though. I guess I can use bug boots now that I think about it. Yuck. I watched Nate play a good chunk of Batman Origins, and it didn't have it. It was, I know, it was internally developed by Rocksteady and not by Origins, or by WB and not by Rocksteady. God. And yeah, that's kind of why I brought it up as an example against them. But, like, I watched him play, and I watched him do a boss fight against, like, a lizard or something. Somebody... You have to, like, run them into fuel tanks or something over and over, and the whole time it just, like, it felt corny when no moments of Arkham City to me, besides, like, Riddler puzzles, which are filler fluff for people that want to complete. No other moments felt like corny in terms of like mechanic stuff. That was the tutorial. I didn't know that. I just remember watching him play it. I think it was playing a second save file or whatever, but it was so, I don't know, it was like poorly done or something. I think I watched him play later in the game and I remember getting a similar feeling. It might have honestly just been more of too much, but when I watched him play Arkham City, I think it was, that one I enjoyed. No, Arkham Knight? Was that the third one? Yeah. Arkham Knight, it really felt like they had kind of found their mojo again. Their juju. Doesn't work in this room. It's lame. So it's only enemies, okay. Right, I could have freaking... I could have used my, freaking thing. Yeah, I actually really like the psychosis issues. Oh fuck! The Joker showing up as like a component of Batman. I think they did that really well in all of the games. There were always moments that I think only could have worked. Like, I think it was the Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul or whatever portion in Arkham City that, like, I think it really stood out to me. Dude, where the fuck are the other secret rooms? The part where you ended up like teleporting to different worlds with like a very trippy. Hey, how to in your own brain psychosis episode. Hi Sam, how you doing? I do not know what to use on this one. My guns are still pretty. Oh yeah, they totally fixed the bullet time item where you don't also slow down with it, so it's actually usable. Well, getting bug boots kind of feels pointless. Just wait till I play some Sayonara Wild Hearts. I know that, like, of course, it's one of those games that's not really a gamer's game. The game of it is pretty subdued, but, okay, that was a little too close. But what there is fucking amazing, and the presentation is sick. Like, well, you'd still definitely say that, oops, that the Arkham games are gamers' games. Like, those are games for people that play games. But yeah, I don't think that you could say the same for Sayonara Wild Hearts. It kind of just feels like a... I got an achievement on it for playing extremely poorly on the first level, and I think there are probably more achievements hidden within it that are tied to that as well. It's very much the synergy. It makes you do triple for whoa. Why the fuck is it with this game that anytime I get the ability to steal, I later on get the ability to steal? Like, It's super fucking weird. Where's the other? God damn. Yeah, I know. I know that's why a game like Gris or something is not for everyone. It's why it's the caveat I was giving about Sayonara Wild Hearts. The game is beautiful. It's incredible to look at. It's got some fucking style on it. But people who want a game to really, really be about the gameplay, to be offering something that's either new and unique or done extremely well, or is focused on being a game first and a performance second, they're probably not going to get that from Sayonara Wild Hearts, because the game is like, the gameplay is pretty subdued and minimal. It's a music game with just kind of minimal inputs. God damn it, can never find a second seat. You can say that. I mean, again, that's why I'm saying, for me, I sometimes want games that offer a bit more of that, because I like it. I really like games that do, like, I don't want to watch cutscene after cutscene, but if there's like a thin gameplay on top of an incredible story, sometimes that's good enough for me. Sometimes that's all I really need. But you know, that's why I can play Telltale games. I can play Life is Strange and stuff like that, and I don't think that needs to be for everyone. I don't think that game is pretending to be a gamer's game. If you actually played it, it's like, it's supposed to be a slow and methodical kind of meditative experience. It's not trying to be a serious platformer. I think that that's kind of you putting that on it. There are moments, there are cutscenes in the game, that's true, but like, there are not so many that it's like ruining my experience as a player of the game. And I think that's the difference that I have with it. The difference of opinion I have with it. Video. Those moments aren't the definition of the game. They are moments. And I think that it's totally fine to have moments like that. It doesn't... I don't know. Anyway. That's where I stand on it. I understand other people's opinions, but allowing for multiple different and very distinct things to coexist in the medium is the value of the medium. You don't always need tension to be real tension, because in games where the tension is real, you die and then you restart. It's like, while I was playing a game like Uncharted, I fucking hated it, because I'd get in a firefight and it'd be this like incredibly like epic moment where all this shit is going on, and then I die and then I just get another try. It's like, it's all fake tension. 100% of it in all video games is fake tension. It's like, except for games where there's like a single death and then you start over. A game like this or something. The tension of losing progress is so short in the majority of games. You could say in survival games, but I don't really enjoy survival or crafting games. But even then, you know, like, the amount you lose is not so substantial that it's like, it matters. And there are certain games that don't want to put on even that much of a show of tension, like, because that's not what they're focusing on. A game like Gris is supposed to be a more meditative thing. Like, when the bad guy, the giant shadow bird or the giant shadow like shark or whatever shows up, there is some real tension. They put on the show because it's a visual medium, but like, No, it doesn't have to be. Like, if a game is multiple things and it does them well for what it's trying to do, it can be. It doesn't have to be a game where you lose and get a game over screen. Like, that's just some of them. If they want the thing to be this interesting, like, introspective thing, then it can be that and it can be fine. I don't think that you need to make it like, oh shit, I'm going to lose and then I'm going to have to go back, you know, 3 minutes ago to do a better job at this particular fight for it to really feel like a video game. Like, and that's why I played games like that from time to time. Night in the Woods didn't need to have moments that you could hard lose. Like, I mean, that was a game that was all about its story and stuff, and it had moments of tension and stuff, but you couldn't die. You just could just wait things out. You could leave a dialogue box open for the entire time. But it still was a good game despite very, very minimal gameplay. Like, I don't know. Whoa, that was weird. It did. I mean, it kind of did with the whole cult finding you in the well shaft or whatever. Like, however, you don't get to decide what video games are allowed to do and not allowed to do. I think that there are certain things that fit for certain moments and others that don't. And I think that that's kind of the wonderful thing about video games, is they don't have to be rowdy levels of tension for all of them. Sometimes it can be false tension. It can be you can't lose this situation where it seems like a big bad guy is after you, but it's still a good game. Like, I don't know. And that's why I like the diversity and the, like, openness of the medium. It's one of those things where I really feel like there's something we're all benefiting from by having all these different possibilities of what makes a game work. And for whom a game works. Whoa, that was fucking weird. I don't know. And that's just why I like the openness and diversity of the medium. I sometimes want a game where, like, you know, I'll play an RPG if I want something that's more focused on the story that doesn't have a ton of actual gameplay on it. The gameplay can be tedious to some people, interesting because it's about, like, slowly accruing these things to other people. I really appreciate that the variety exists. And, you know, there doesn't need to be hard limitations on it for me. Because as soon as you put limitations on it, you'll realize there's an example where that is counter to how you actually feel. Damn, God fucking Christ, damn it. I need some goddamn keys. I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad that those kind of games exist. Oh shit, I still have my lockpick. I should have been trying that throughout. Nice. And a key. So that's 4 curse. Wow. And then nothing to be afraid of from Jam Guys. Wow. I think I like to take everything as a whole instead of focusing on... I mean, it's not always true. Sometimes I don't like to take everything as a wholly inclusive experience. Sometimes I just like to find one thing that's wrong with the game and be done with it for that, because everybody's hypocritical. But I don't want to just start saying, like, this is a reason I can't enjoy game X or game Y or whatever, because it had a cutscene where I couldn't die, or a gameplay moment that was meant to be a cutscene. Oof. I don't know. I want games to have the freedom to be varied and different, and Like, to start, like, appreciating, I don't know, more of it than just a feature that I've liked in the past. I think, I mean, I disagree. I think that what they're doing is aiming for something that they want to aim for, and they're accomplishing it, but it's not something that you want them to aim for. Like, when I played Gree, I didn't feel like, I would not have felt like if I got hit by a giant bird and died, it would have been a better experience for it. I felt like that was meant to be emotive and not meant to be a gameplay challenge. Like, I think the point of it was something other than, you know, what you wanted the point to be. What am I gonna fucking use? I do not know. Well, I fucking don't know what I'm gonna use. I guess this. I don't know. I really enjoyed Gree. I finished some more of it off stream, but I haven't finished the game yet. But what I was saying earlier is I want to start just getting more games that I wouldn't have gotten before. I want to start really supporting indie producers more. People who make good games that are games that I think I might like. I want to start putting money behind, because like there's so many people making shitty things and really like winning out in the end making garbage. And there's so many people out there making great stuff that are like never making even their initial investments back. And it sucks. Oh man. Terrible. There's a video I think that it's a really good one to watch. It's Tim Rogers' Kotaku.com games of the decade. It also made me realize that once the year 2020 hits, I will have been alive for, god damn it, for 5 decades. I'm not 50 years old, but I would have been I will have been a part of 5 different calendar decades. And that's really fucking weird to think of. Much harder to dodge this. He makes really good videos, and this one is like no exception to that rule. It gets a little like heartfelt and like kind of sad, kind of like down, which is great because like not that he's miserable or that things were bad for him during the last 10 years, but like that he's willing to insert that genuineness into his videos about, you know, video games he played. Like, can you give me like, too early, fuck. There we go. There we go. Oh shit, I didn't even block that. Well, I think he ended up making, it wasn't a best games of the decade list. It was kind of like his personal most appreciated games of the decade, and also like games that kind of signified the decade. And it's a confused list, and he spends about 15 minutes in the start of the video describing what he's trying to say with his 10 games of the decade list. Like, he doesn't just want to say, like, these games had the most influence or that they were the most profitable or whatever. He's saying that some of them are, like, you know, ones that did have influence on the zeitgeist but were well made, and some that he didn't necessarily play a lot of, but he still thinks of as super important. Hi, Andron, how you doing? So I downloaded Dauntless, and I don't know if I'll be able to play that game because it looks like shit. I mean, I hate to be so upfront about it, but it is running at like a negative frame rate. Tim Rogers. Oh my god. We got the aged bell. Yeah, on the Switch. Oh yeah, the aged bell is another way to steal. I never even thought of. We have two, like, very useful time slowdown things. I'm not surprised by it. It's just, I think the game is trying to do too much. I got to the main city, and it was just like hitting like 10, 15 frames a second. It feels like they didn't optimize it at all for the Switch. What they did was just lower the graphical settings from the PC version and then just dump it onto the Switch. And like, that doesn't work. That ain't it, Chief. Oh, I don't know. I've been having I had a really rough time with it. I got through the like intro and character creation, and it just felt like a slug in a rug. Maybe there's something wrong with my particular Switch. Yeah, it might also be familiarity with it. I'm really loving the indie scene right now. It's allowing things to get weird. Like, oh, Andron, did you watch Mark Brown's video? His most innovative game of the year video. Like a game like Baba Is You. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why you're not gonna watch it. A game like Baba Is You is like part of the reason that I'm so happy with the indie game scene. A game like Sayonara Wild Hearts is a game that I'm like, that expresses exactly why I'm so happy with indie games in a very, you know, a much more general way, because it's like they're comfortable doing things that would never fly, that are less guaranteed, and they're, you know, they don't always work, but like this game shouldn't work necessarily. Like Isaac was already done. Why do we need another RNG shooter, essentially? But it's so nice that people are still making incredibly different things that wouldn't have been counted as video games at different points. Let's just go. We're gonna get that too. Well, you don't want to watch the Tim Brown or the Tim Rogers video if that's how you feel. Because you can go ahead and guess what number 1 is on that list. based on what I just said. But if you're watching a video, you shouldn't watch a Tim Rogers video just for the punchline at the end, just for the final verdict. The video is actually an incredibly well-made video, and everything that he makes I've liked. But I think Dark Souls makes a lot of sense. Dark Souls is also a great fucking game, but I understand people are tired of hearing the word Dark Souls, the words. And so there's an automatic. He even mentions it. He talks about how, like, he can't say that any aspect of a game reminds him of Dark Souls without people shitting on him in chat or in comments. I'm just gonna disagree with you there. There are, like, there's so many first-person shooters out there that you could say that, you know, well, isn't it crazy that Doom became a genre? Isn't it crazy that X became a genre? Like, yeah. I feel that Dark Souls is fine to become a genre. I think that what you take from it is, it's a very varied thing, what Dark Souls is. And if you just focus on one aspect of it, then yeah, it's kind of frustrating that people are making moody, atmospheric, difficult, positional-based games. But if you focus on the other aspects, the way they, like, eke out the lore, the way that they slowly reveal the backstory through, like, more submersive and less direct means, the way that they, like, make gameplay feel oppressive in a world that feels oppressive, I think that you'll take more out of it. But it's really, again, I understand. I agree with you that it's a lot more broad, but I also agree that if you really were to break down Dark Souls into many of its aspects and many of the things that people actually really appreciate about the series, it's not just one aspect. The gameplay elements are a part of it. The design elements are another. Man, this ring is worthless. And I think I really do think that Dark Souls is a tour de force, yeah. What? Sekiro is a worse Dark Souls? Alright, man. I think that you, like... I think that you're a little too judgmental about stuff like this. I think that you're a little too, like, intrinsically negative about things sharing similarities. I mean, first and foremost, it's made by the same guy, the same director, the same, like, creative. So yeah, there's some similarities, but, like, if you actually play the games and get into the mechanics, well, it's not just that. The number of things that they change by putting limitations on it. If you put limitations on what a game is allowed to have, when you change the smallest thing, it makes a huge difference. In Dark Souls, you can play it 40 different ways. You can play it as a magician, as a heavy damage dealer. You can play it as a naked guy using a stick. Like, you can play it as, like, all these different ways. You can run past enemies. You can do all these complicated things. But if you just look at it from the outside, it's a sword and shield, hack and slash, you know, intensely difficult, punishingly so game. You can break down anything to a few words and make it feel like that game doesn't have anything to offer different than the other thing. But that's kind of, like, intentionally ignorant. Like, that's willfully overlooking the things or actually playing the games and feeling out how different those changes make it. Like, I don't know. Oh man, I shouldn't have got rid of guns. That's right. I forgot about Unity. I've like weakened myself a little bit in this run. Right. Depending on how you want to, you can deconstruct anything into it being similar if you want to. If you don't want to, if you're arguing the other side, it's pretty easy to highlight the differences. It's just a matter of like, I think that they have. I think that's something that I've pointed out a couple times in this video, that I really love that indie devs are doing stuff so wildly and distinctly different. Like, I just pointed out a number of games that are significantly different. I mean, you got Bob As You, you got Sayonara Wild Hearts, you got Ape Out, you got exactly, you got freaking Return of the Obra Dinn. You got so many things that are actually doing significantly different things. Indie games aren't just Metroid clones. Like, there are constant trends in game development in general. I mean, the always online service model is a big trend in AAA games. The fucking, but like, if you're claiming that that's the big thing, then you're again closing your eyes to the truth of what's out there. It's like you're willfully saying like, hey, these 4 games share this idea, so all games are being a little bit too similar. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that that's circular reasoning almost. And yeah, also, some of those fucking Metroidvanias are incredible. Hollow Knight is a great game for people who want that. I don't like Metroid games. I don't like getting lost in games, but like for the people that do, I'm glad that there's people taking those ideas and making something completely different and whoops, and kind of out of left field with them. I don't know, people were saying that Gungeon is a rip of Dark Souls, I remember at a certain point. And I was like, I don't think that that's true. I think it just has a dodge mechanic, and it's, you know, punishing the people who don't learn the systems. But like I said, it's pretty easy to home in on the similarities and ignore the differences if that's what you're looking for. Stop giving me the fucking map at the end of this. I don't even think I can use this, right? Well, kind of. You think that Team Cherry made a game like that because they felt financially pressured into making it? I think that's a pretty silly thought. I think they made a game like that because that's the game they wanted to, and they've shown, like, extreme amounts of passion for it. Well, I mean, you are saying that games are feeling, like, pressured into following trends. And I don't think there's really an indie developer who looks at a trend and then makes a game. I think indie developers in particular, I mean, maybe, you know, they're really shitty ones who are making the next Battle Royale or the next whatever. But those kind of fall by the wayside pretty quickly. I think a majority of people are making that games that are enduring are like absolutely making the game they want to make Especially if you say so, Roddy. I just fundamentally disagree with you on this. I think that, like, if you look at all the good games out there, the games that really have endured, they're making something that's out of left field a lot of the time. Like, especially in the indie scape, you don't get a game like Bob As You because he sees other people making mechanics bending puzzle, grid-based puzzle games or whatever. Like, but yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about everyone throwing out a fucking game. If you look on the App Store, Flappy Bird has more clones than any game in the history of games, because there are some people out there just trying to earn a living. There are some people out there trying to make a buck. But, like, we're not talking about that when I'm describing the indie games that I'm, like, interested in supporting. Like, you can't find the garbage at the bottom of the barrel and say this is representative of the game industry as a whole, unless we're talking about bad games. Wait. Oh man, I can't even turn that off. Yuck. Alright, Roddy. How many Metroidvanias came out this year that you're aware of? Because I can think of, like, one off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a couple others. But, like, I stay pretty, like, I follow games news as closely as the average person does, maybe a little closer. But, like, I can only think of that one, like, Symphony of the Night or whatever the fuck it's called. Oh, there was also, yeah, Blasphemous that Squatcho played. No, Guacamelee... Was Guacamelee 2 this year? I don't remember. But that's like 3 games, right? The number of roguelites I can think of is maybe like 3 or 4. But like once you get into like cutting off genres because they're similar, you're again focusing on the similarities to pick out problems that instead of thinking about what those games do differently that makes them outstanding or makes them interesting. Like, it's a willfulness to look at similarities and say this is a fucking problem. And that's all these games are, is their similarity. There aren't a lot of games out there that are wholly original. There just aren't. And those ones that are lauded. Everything's built on the shoulders of giants. And like I said, it depends on where you want to draw the line as what's okay in terms of similarity and what isn't. And it's arbitrary and it's personal. Like, dang, dang, dang. That's pretty good. Ooh. I mean, people said for the longest time that Gungeon itself is just a ripoff. And those people never played the game because it felt too much like Isaac to them. Or they played it long enough to see that it felt too much like Isaac, and then they just said, yeah, this is so similar. I don't want to play, you know, another Isaac game. I already got Isaac for that. So it's up to the individual to figure out what is acceptable in terms of similarity or difference. Oh, what? Decoy didn't do shit there. I'm just pointing out how your argument feels to me. Like that's a similar argument, saying that, like, you know, games are bad because they adopt this quality of Dark Souls or whatever, or they're more likely to be bad because of it, is as similar to me as someone arguing that Gungeon is bad because it stole a lot of its ideas from Isaac. Like, you got to get in and focus on what makes things unique to really see that they are. And until you want to do that, there's no point in, I don't know, even caring. But if you watch anybody that's played through the Dark Souls games and played Sekiro, everybody talks about how different it feels to them. I think what you're doing is a lot of false equivalence. I really do, and I think you're comfortable doing it as your part of your arguing strategy, saying that, like, first-person games are a genre, so it's so broad that they can't be similar, is very similar to saying, like, Dark Souls-esque games are so similar. If you play The Surge after playing Dark Souls, they don't feel at all similar. If you play Sekiro after playing Dark Souls, they really don't feel similar because the mechanics are so stripped down that when they change something, it is a fundamental shift. But if you look at it from the outside, if you look at the way the camera works, the way the enemies interact, the way death affects a player, then yes, you could say that it's similar. I don't think that all Metroidvanias are the same. I think that all randomly generated top-down shooters are the same. I think that, like, you need to experience everything on a one-on-one per game basis for it to really, like, speak for itself, whether it's similar or dissimilar. And until there's a real willingness to do that, there's, like, it's why there's so much uninformed hate for Dark Souls and for things that take things from the Dark Souls playbook. Right? But, like, you get to decide when similarity is okay and when it isn't. And you also get to judge games based on that and say that, like, games are bad because of sharing certain features. But I think that that's as problematic as some of the things that you're saying are acceptable in other genres and stuff. Yeah. I agree with you, but I don't think that that makes it right. And I think that, like, I think people will appreciate a lot more in games when they start going in and stop saying, like, this is like this, so I'm done with it. Like, I don't know. That's exactly why I'm trying to address my approach to games, to play a lot more indie games and to, like, support games that I won't even necessarily get to play, because I think there's a lot of stuff that, like, I can write off pretty easily early on that actually is fucking amazing, and I need to stop, like, being so short-sighted or so close-minded about it. I need to stop assuming that I understand what a game is like just from looking at somebody play it. Anyway, this run's going extremely well. Unity, of course, has, like, broken things open in a very wide and powerful way. And I don't feel like I even need to worry about ammo, so I might just use whatever I want to. I think that we're not going to have any trouble. We, of course, didn't get a leg out on this one because I got hit on the first floor. But I think we're still going to do all right pretty quickly and pretty easily here. The damage per shot is through the roof. I also have, what, +1 bullets? Yikes. No, motherfucker. Oh, I can't use the Eagle Muncher with the, with Unity. Not even a little bit. I actually can leave that because I can do that. Whoa, shit. Jesus Christ, that was so fucking fast. There we go, there's level 3. And a key for me. Gotta keep those feelers out there. You still going after Maru? I don't think I could play that game and not go after Maru. I don't know how many attacks he got off, but it was not many. Did they make extramarital affairs a thing in that game? Or are you gonna smash before you propose? Shit, I don't think okay, I did position that one. Whoa. Why would you? Because he's a doctor? Haru is kind of like considered a great big nerd, right? No, am I confusing him? Am I inflating him with somebody else? This is honestly the most, like, the most ridiculous Lich fight I've ever had in my life. I've never had a Lich fight where so much of it was spent with time either not moving or crawling. Hey, man boo. How are you, man, doing? Wait, no. Oh, I sold one to go into the Agunum floor. God, what a good run. Wait, 237? 237.